What is the meaning of a fraction times a fraction? I have 10 marbles and you have twice as many. How many marbles do you have? So 10 marbles times 2 equals to 20 marbles. You have 20 marbles. I have 10 marbles and I give you half of my marbles. How many marbles do you have? The meaning of multiplication is the same. If you have twice, I times 2. If you have a half, I times a half. Times a half means 10 marbles I divided into 2 lots times 1 lot. So equals to 5 marbles. I have half a cake and I give you half of my cake. How much cake do you have? That is half the cake. So I give half to you and half to me. So for you, it is a half times a half. You have a quarter. For me, it is a half times a half equals a quarter. For multiplication, the meaning is the same, no matter it is a whole number or a fraction. If I have 10, I give you half, 10 times a half. If I have a half, I give you half, I still times a half. That is a half times a half. Roll 2 dice. What is the chance of getting 2 odd numbers? For a die, we have 6 numbers. We want odd numbers. So instead of drawing all the numbers, we draw 2 types, odd numbers and even numbers. For odd numbers, there are 3, 1, 3, 5. 3 numbers out of 6 numbers, that is, the chance is a half. For even numbers, that is also a half. For the second die, we also have odd and even. For the outcomes, we have odd, 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 even, odd, and even. So the probability for odd and odd is, the first odd is a half, times the second odd is a half. A half times a half is a quarter. For odd even is also a quarter. So even odd and even, they're all a quarter. The question asks for the chance of getting 2 odd numbers. That is odd and odd. That is a half times a half. That is a quarter. A coin is tossed 3 times. What is the probability head appears every time? So for the first time, the coin may show the head or the tail. The chance for getting the head is a half. The chance for getting the tail is also a half. The second time, it is the same, no matter what you've got in the first time. And similarly, for the third time, it is also the same. We want to find the probability of 3 heads. Then the first time, we need to find the probability of getting a head times the second time a head times the third time also getting a head. Then the chance is a half times a half times a half equals to 1/8. A coin is tossed 3 times. What is the probability of getting 1 head and 2 tails? We want to find the probability of 1 head and 2 tails. So the probability of a head times probability of a tail followed by another probability of a tail. Probability of getting a head is a half. For the tail is also a half. So we have a half times a half times a half. However, we assume the first time we get a head. But it is possible that we get a head in the second time or in the third time. So we need to times 3C1. That means we have 3 times. We have to choose which time we have the head. 3C1 is 3. times a half times a half times a half equals to 3/8.